According to some commenters, I have an annoying voice. So I tried doing this video in a British accent, and that was much worse. Today, we're talking about voice, specifically the different types of voice that you'll encounter in fiction writing. Different people will characterize this in different ways, but in my view, there are three major types of voice: the author's voice, the character's voice, and the narrator's voice. Although sometimes they sort of blend into each other, we'll talk about that. But first, what the heck is voice anyway? Voice is any feature of the writing that identifies who it comes from, either which author or which character. It is the slight opinions that move something away from mechanical neutrality and towards a specific style. Small changes in approach that tug the writing in different directions. Voice is something that permeates every aspect of your writing, but can also be really hard to pin down. It can encompass everything from word choice to sentence structure to even how entire scenes or entire plots are approached. I'll go through some more specific examples as we go through the three types of voice, starting with the author's voice. Every author has their own style, their own approach to the writing, which colors the narrative in some way. They might write long, drawn-out conversations with lots of dialogue. They might write lavish descriptions with lots of poetic prose, or perhaps they prefer more bare-bones descriptions. These quirks naturally arise out of how you write and your individual preferences as an author. Unlike the other two types of voice we'll talk about today, the author's voice really isn't something that needs any direct attention from you. Don't force things into your style just for the sake of having a stronger voice. Let these things come on their own. Just focus on improving and discovering what it is you like. You already have an authorial voice, even if you don't recognize it. It will fully emerge and evolve as you grow as a writer. Next up is the character's voice. Every character is going to have experiences, opinions, and beliefs about the world that affect how they talk about the world around them. This could be a dialect they speak in, a subject they know a lot about and speak a lot about, or just things that they tend to notice and gravitate towards in the world around them. The obvious place where character voice comes through is dialogue. Dialogue should be written in the character's voice, obviously, but the character voice can come through in other places as well. Other parts of the writing are often tinged with elements of the viewpoint character's voice. They could be slight changes in how the prose is written, or a different emphasis on what is noticed. For instance, a character who's big into cars will likely notice the cars in a scene. A character who's nervous around crowds will likely notice the number of people in a room. Everything that the reader is guided towards is, in effect, driven by the character's voice, including the assessments and opinions of what's happening around them. All of the events in your story and the interpretation of those events are ultimately driven by the character's own thoughts and beliefs, just like real-world events are. And this doesn't just work in first-person perspective stories, although it is usually stronger in first-person perspective. It can also work in a third limited perspective, and applying character voice this way is a really good way to distinguish different viewpoints and also characterize your characters. By having events filtered in different ways and having the characters notice different things depending on who the viewpoint character is, it will make each viewpoint more distinct and also make your characters more distinct. Obviously, since you create your characters, you are also the one who decides on their voice. This is something you should actively cultivate as you develop your characters. The main point of character voice is to characterize, to get information about the character to the reader and to distinguish that character from other characters. Lastly, we have the narrator's voice. This one is quite a bit more subtle than the other two, and in the case of a first-person perspective story, the narrator's voice coincides with the main character's voice, so it's arguably completely absent. The narrator voice is a way to color the prose via a different set of opinions than the character has. One of the most prominent examples of this is when you have an unreliable narrator in a third limited perspective. You may have character thoughts and dialogue that, for instance, show the character as being confident and adept, while the actions and narrative around the character paint them as clumsy or oafish. The narrator's voice is usually, but not always, more objective compared to the character's voice, as the characters tend to be biased in some way. So in effect, the narrator's voice is sort of providing commentary on the character and sort of foiling off of them. Third omniscient stories often have a more strongly voiced narrator, where they say things like "little did they know" or "to their surprise." It really indicates a stronger voiced narrator. This is a very subtle technique, but when done right, it is a good way to highlight aspects of your character and also make the narrative itself more interesting. Of all the three types of voice we talked about today, the narrator's voice gets the least amount of attention, and it's one of the best opportunities to really set your story apart. Just like this video was a great opportunity for you to watch this video. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video and found the advice in it useful. If you want to see more stuff like this, you can check out all my other writing advice related videos and subscribe to my channel. If you have any thoughts on what was covered today, please comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.